Hi, and welcome to SEO Hangouts with Josh Bachynski. This is me. If you don't have at least 2 or 3 hate sites dedicated to you, you're just not trying. Today I'd like to talk about the infamous, the dreaded Panda 4.2. John Mueller, this has been a crazy thing that's been going on lately, their latest quality algorithm. And in fact, I think it's their main algorithm they're working now, and I have some evidence for you to explain, to expatiate my view. John Mueller had a hangout last night. John Mueller is a Google employee. And so today I'd like to go through what he talked about. It was a lot about Panda, of course, as you can imagine. A lot of people were hit by this. Some were released, some were demoted, or maybe even they were promoted and demoted, so who knows. And John Mueller explained a lot of how Panda works, and if you listen to it yourself and listen to my analysis of it, I think you're going to be pretty surprised. So let's just say PageRank is dead. Long live QualityRank. So without further ado, so John Mueller, yes. So today's July 31st, around 2 a.m. my time. John Mueller had a hangout. Of course, John Mueller's located in Switzerland, so it wasn't 2 a.m. his time. He had a hangout and explained a lot about how this new Panda is working and what I'm calling QualityRank. Now, to be clear, John Mueller didn't call it QualityRank. I'm calling it QualityRank, kind of based on the Panda patent that was released in 2012. So let me kind of explain how this works, how this was coming about. And I'll kind of read through it, and then I'll kind of explain. So around the 3-minute mark of this July 31st hangout, John Mueller admits that hits can happen anytime during this Panda rollout. So just to recap, around July 18th or so, on the Saturday, that weekend, the 18th to the 22nd, on the Saturday in there, Google seems to have released a Panda algorithm. Now, they said it's going to take months to roll out, which makes absolutely no sense. And that it's going to tax low quality, blah, 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 blah. Barry Schwartz reported on it. I critiqued Barry Schwartz's report quite heavily because Barry Schwartz's report made no sense. He's just repeating back what Google tells him directly, not realizing, of course, that, heaven forbid, they might be using Barry as part of their public relations strategy. Just saying. Just, maybe. Just throwing it out there. It's a theory. Everything here I say is a theory. No one knows the facts. Not even Barry knows the facts. Just because someone at Google told him doesn't mean it's true. This is the way human society works. So listen to my theories and see if I have the evidence to back it up. And if you believe it, great. If you don't, well, then your science won't rank. Then you don't. Fine. So anyway, Panda was released. And so it takes months to roll out. So people have been speculating, okay, why is this? So I think it's because it was, obviously they're moving to an automated on-crawl or on processing kind of strategy. And John Mueller essentially confirmed that in this hangout. If you put 2 and 2 together and if you read between the lines, and you don't even have to read that hard, John Mueller is basically admitting it. So let me go through what he says. So a nice fellow by the name of Odysseus, I love his name because it's my favorite Greek hero, Odysseus, was complaining about and kind of talking to John Mueller, trying to get some resolution from John Mueller about a site that he works for or works on that hasn't been ranking very well for a long time. It's been having Panda problems and quality problems for a long time. And John Mueller confirmed that. He checked in his little penalty server. Remember, John Mueller has a penalty server. He can check whether you have a penalty like that. He can just see the flags on it like that. And so he was gracious enough to do so this one time. And he did admit that there was Panda on it. But then he also admitted very interestingly that not only can you be hit in the beginning of this Panda rollout, but you can be hit during any time on this slow rollout. So if that is the case, and then he also said, John Mueller also said, and I quote, regarding Odysseus' site, I don't know which direction it is headed at the moment. And that's a direct quote. I don't know which direction it is headed at the moment. This means that it has to be an on-crawl or an ongoing processing that they're doing, a real-time or close to real-time processing that they're doing, an automatic, not a manual push-button update like it used to be. This means they're moving to an automatic updating scenario. And my good friend Ted Kubitis, who I hope doesn't mind me mentioning his name because he's a really smart guy, he explained to me how cloud computing works. And it's very interesting because, of course, Google's moved to a cloud computing model, and that's where all of their index is in the cloud, or their private cloud. They do a cloud computing model on it to run processes and queries to get information back that they want. So it's not quite on crawl, he explained to me. It's not when they process the page, they do some magic and then do some things. The Googlebot crawls the entire web, throws that all in a queue, and then they process it one by one as it's going through and collect that to site and entity database information, aka the Hummingbird algorithm that they released in June 2013. So the long story short is that, I'll repeat, Odysseus' site already had a small hit, JM confirmed, but then John Mueller said, as to which direction it's going to go now, I do not know where it's headed at the moment. This means it must be analyzing click patterns. That is to say, comparing clicks to elements on the page that they crawl, or otherwise tracking what I call task completion ratios. I repeat, if a site is not just hit as soon as they roll it out, but it can be hit at any time during this slow rollout process, that means they must be analyzing something like click patterns and comparing clicks to elements on the page. I said before that it could be on-crawl page factors, and they could very well have an algorithm that does that because they have multiple quality algorithms. Remember, I repeat, they have multiple quality algorithms. And John Mueller does say something to corroborate that later on in my rant I'm about to get to. But it can't be, I think this new Panda cannot be on-crawl factors, because if it was, they've already crawled your site. They have a picture of your site in their head based on the last crawl. When they rolled out the algorithm, they would hit it then, right? If they're computing a quality rank or a quality score based on on-page factors on your crawled pages, then when they roll it out, it would go up or down then. But John Mueller he directly admitted, you can go up or down on any time. Panda can hit you at any time during this long rollout. That means they must be accruing new data. Which John Mueller basically admitted and Joshua Berg called click feedback later on in this hangout. But basically, it has to be, there had to be accruing data, and the data they're accruing, there's no other data to accrue. They already have a crawl picture of your site, so they either hit it or not at that time, the way they used to, right? Based on all those factors that I had Google leaks on from my page, themoralconcept.net/pandalist.html, which has all the Google leaked Panda factors. Now, those could still very well be relevant. They could be very well relevant from a user metric standpoint, and or they could still have algorithms that look at this stuff, as he kind of admitted later on, and I'll find that exact time when he admitted it. For example, at the 50-minute mark, Joe Mueller admitted that bad or irrelevant comments on your cannot be crawled. They cannot. If you have bad or irrelevant comments on your page, this is going to be a ranking factor. You have to hide them or paginate them. He said specifically to hide the content, to cloak them specifically. He directly said this. He didn't say cloaking, but this is what he's saying for you to do. That you're going to have ranking problems if you do not paginate, aka hide behind a click, or hide these bad comments, and you'll have to have only good comments. So it seems that it's a direct crawling or no index at page. So it seems like it's a direct crawling factor, but you never know. It could be user metric based. People could see the comments and go, these are not helpful, and bounce. Or that's what he could be worried about. Or it could be that they have some multiple algorithms, or it could be part of the Panda algorithm that still has some on-crawl factors too. So anyway, it seems that they do accrue some data over time, whether it's on-crawl factors, but it's leaning more now towards click feedback, as Joshua Berg called it. And this is also based directly and assigns some kind of quality score or quality rank to your overall site based on the number of bad factors they find. He did directly state also in this hangout that it is a site-wide algorithm at around the 40 mark, 40 minutes and 40 seconds, around there. He mentioned that he did admit directly it's still a site-wide algorithm. So He admitted that you can be hit anytime in this long-term rollout. So it cannot be on crawl because they already have a picture of your site. They would already make a decision to demote or promote on that picture, right? So they don't need to get an increasing picture. And if you changed it, then in 3 months' time, when they crawl it again, then they would hit it again. That's not the way it works. He said you could be hit on any time this monthly these long-term rollout. That means they must be accruing data. They could be comparing crawl factors. Now, I think what's happening is exactly what they said they would do, exactly what they said they would do in their 2012 Panda patent. Bill Slawski was already nice enough to paraphrase this 2012 Panda patent, and he'd already mentioned that they would assign you a quality score, what I'm calling QualityRank. So again, I have to stress, PageRank is dead. It's not the major factor anymore. It's not even a main factor because links can be bought, they can be sold, they can be faked, they can be spammed. They can only trust like 10% of them these days. So only very specific links they trust based on historical trust patterns, maybe click patterns through the links. They trust that, right? And then so they can trust these links on blogs. They're editorial, they're non-spammy, they're non-exact match, those kinds of things. Only to a certain percentage will they trust anything other than that. And so I think they assign a quality score based on query to task completion ratios, right? They see you're looking for buying red apples. You click on the greatestredapplesEver.com page. Does your task complete or not? It's also very interesting that at the same time that Gary Iles of Google admits that they double their crawling rate, and so they can crawl way more pages now, and at the same time they start complaining heavily if you've blocked CSS or JS and they can't render the page the way the browser renders it. So they've been talking about task completion since 2012, ironically ever since this Panda patent came out. And I think it's pretty clear now. The evidence suggests they're accruing click pattern data. My best guess is that they're assigning a quality ratio or a quality score based on or a quality rank, I'm calling it, based on the ratio of clicks to task completion. Clicks to task completion, right? So they know you're a good page if they want to learn about SEO basics. They go to some blog page about SEO basics and they close the tab. Do they go back to Google and search something else, or they close the tab, or they bookmark it, or they share it on social, right? Do they do some kind of action other than that which would indicate that the task completed, it's a good page? And that is compared to all the other pages. So if 80% of your people complete the task, as compared to your competitors have 90%, then he's going to rank higher than you because he has a better quality rank, he has a better quality score, as compared to other people who only complete that task 50% of the time or 30% of the time. And they do this all based on the cloud computing queries that they do after processing all this different data, and then they run it on a semi-regular basis. That's why they can't run it in a real-time basis, because that's a lot of data that they have to accrue. That's a lot of data they have to compare, and it's big queries they have to make. So that's how I think it's running. And so let me go through what else he said in this Hangout that kind of corroborates this, right? So, as I said, if it looks at static factors, then they would demote you or promote you. They would demote you or promote you right away. They already have a picture of your site, so it can't be on-crawl factors. It can't be on-page factors anymore. I repeat, Panda cannot be based on on-page factors. Otherwise, they would just demote or promote on release. There wouldn't be a need to accrue data on a regular basis. It could be fully crawled, and then they have to accrue the crawl, but that does not cohere with the evidence we have. The evidence we have is people were hit immediately based on their existing quality rank, I suspect. There would be no need to, not a lot of people's websites don't change that much. So there's no need for, what we're seeing is people are getting a small boost and it gets better and better and better, or a small demotion and it gets slightly worse and worse and worse over time. It would be blank to this position and would stay there until they crawled again and then would go up, right? It would be more like this in your analytics as opposed to like this or like this on that date, right? That's how it would work. That's what you would see in your analytics. I repeat, if they were doing an on-crawl on a long-term basis, they would crawl, process, demote or promote. It would look like this in your analytics, waterfalls, up or down. It would not look like this analyzing click data, right? Analyzing the click data would come through slowly, partially over time, and that would change your task completion ratio, and that your task completion ratio every day would be like 50%, 40%, 70%. It wouldn't vary that much actually, unless you're buying paid traffic, because they're morons. Well, paid traffic, they don't complete anything. They're very, very, very flighty. They don't complete any tasks. Or as compared to organic traffic, which has a high buying intent, low in the sales funnel, I want to buy red apples. Show me the page where I can buy red apples, Google, blank. They go there, yes, okay, looks vaguely good. Okay, click to complete the process, right? So your task completion ratio is probably going to be, plus or 5 minus percent at any given time, unless you're greatly varying your traffic. That's just a rough guess, but work with me here. And so as they see, it's kind of good, it's better than we thought it was, that your ranking's going to kind of change based on this processing of your quality rank, your task completion ratio as a click to completion ratio as things progress over days and over time. Again, if it was on crawl, it'd be crawl, process. That's how that would work. And you would see a waterfall up or down the way we used to see it. That's not how we're seeing it now. I know this because lots of people have shared their analytics data and say, look, Barry has shared his analytics data and said, look, this is, I got out of Panda. He's so happy he got out of Panda. By the way, he didn't make any changes to his content either, right? That's another piece of evidence that suggests it is not crawl-based. He changed his comments from HTML disquiz to JavaScript disquiz. John Mueller was asked about that in this exact same hangout. And John Mueller admitted fully, we can already crawl the JavaScript. And somebody, Ross Hudgens, forgive me if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, recently tweeted a study where someone checked like 12 different ways of hiding content. Can Google read the content? And the answer is yes to all of them, including Ajax, including JavaScript. So Google can very easily read discuss, whatever you want to call it, JavaScript comments. And I don't think Barry's comments are getting any more positive. In fact, they seem to be getting equally as negative as they used to be. So I think what they realized is Google said this is unfair, probably using Barry's site as an example, right, of him complaining and saying, look, Barry is the preeminent site on SEO. He has the best information on SEO. He updates on a regular basis. People are just shrill, negative people, right? We can't go on these anecdotal signals anymore. Just because there's a pop-up doesn't mean the site's crap. Just because they have negative comments doesn't mean the site is crap. Right? Because people are assholes for the most part, right? The people on the interwebs are not these nice people who are leaving links, making links to sites and leaving positive comments, right? For the most part, people are generally fairly negative. I hate to sound nihilistic, but it's fairly true depending on the niche you're in. So they decided, okay, well, we're going to look at task completion ratios. As their patent said in 2012, they're going to do it. And Miley Oye, another Google employee who I've had private conversation with, has admitted since 2012, in 2011 actually, that's what they're going to do, is start moving to task completion. Google has put out a PowerPoint slide shows how to improve your micro conversions to macro conversions. That is task completion, right? Little clicks to the final conversion. That's what micro conversion to macro conversion means. Google does not put out these videos unless there's a reason, because they want you to improve it. So, and then they're going to promote the ones that improve that. So, so the Barry site thing, that's another reason. Barry did not change his content at all, but his site got better on the release. So either Barry was complaining to them and they threw him a bone. That's entirely possible. He does have private conversations with Google. Some very interesting Google people, in fact. So they could have just thrown him a bone as a nice little reward, pat on the head for slewing their propaganda out there and believing it so emphatically, for being such a Google fanboy. In my personal opinion, I'm allowed to have an opinion, and you're allowed to decide whether you agree or not. And he didn't change any content, so that does cohere with my theory that if it's now based on a quality rank, which is essentially a mathematical ratio of query to task completion, if people want to be informed about the new Panda 4.2 thing, they're going to Barry's site. They're like, oh yeah, great, and they close the tab, right? They don't click back and click some other result, usually, because Barry's site is more or less the site. I mean, there's search engine land as well, but I mean, there's 10 spots, and so there's 10 spots to fill. And so the 10 best spots are the 10 best spots where you get your SEO information. So again, that's a piece of evidence that corroborates my theory. It doesn't allow us to contradict it. It allows us to affirm it. The more evidence, the more the theory is affirmed. That's how it works, right? All we have is correlation. You have enough correlation, that equals causation in the eyes of the science. If I can take on the awesome role of speaking for the science, which I'm sure the scientists will complain because I'm wearing a plaid shirt and not a smock, a lab smock with a checkboard. If you have a clipperboard and a smock, everything you say is 100% truthier. That was sarcasm. So, as I said, there has to be some kind of ratio that they're calculating as they're accruing data on a regular basis. This is exactly what they said they would do in their 2012 patent. Cloud computing dictates they run processes on the most important sites first, right? They don't have the processing power to, they know about 40 trillion web pages or something like that. They know of about roughly 40 trillion web pages. It was in the trillions anyway. I think it was 40 trillion web pages they know about. They have to choose which ones to process, and they already have admitted that they assign their processing power based on the perceived importance of the particular pages, which includes PageRank, maybe social rank, quality rank, if you want to call it that. And so they have to process the most important pages first, and so page one pages are the most important pages. And so you're seeing a lot of page one pages incrementally up or incrementally down when they rolled it out. As I said, if it was based on on-page factors, they crawled and processed, it would be a waterfall up or down as we used to see, which is the way it used to work, I believe. And they started adapting slowly algorithms based on user metric data. And they have multiple quality algorithms, which again he admitted in this hangout. So let me see what else. So yeah, he said, and this is the quote for backing up what I just said. He said, and I quote, "The algorithms did not think it was as high quality as it could be," talking about Odysseus' site. So again, they have multiple algorithms processing for quality. So I think various quality algorithms and Panda makes up what I'm calling a quality rank, which is a ratio of as far as the quality patents seem to be, the short click and the long click, as Rand likes to call it. Comparison of the short click to the long click of a task completion ratio. And John Mueller admits at the 40-40 mark that it's still site-wide. And around the 39-minute mark, here's where Joshua Berg asks him. Around the 39-minute mark, Joshua Berg directly asks him, "Are you using click data feedback?" And John Mueller has all the classic tells of a liar. If you want to study classic tells of a liar or classic body language for a liar, looking down, thinking about it, not looking directly at you, evading the question, John Mueller did all those classic tells. So again, this is my theory, this is my opinion, but this is what I do for a living. I've been analyzing what John Mueller has been saying for years, and I rank sites on page one based on this, and based on the feedback of my experiments, of course. So I ping between what John Mueller says, they're putting two and two together, but all the Google employees say, both in private and public conversations, based on what information I know they have access to and what they could do and how they would do it, based on my sites that I rank and see what ranks and what doesn't rank, and in my experiments, and the hundreds of site audits I do a year. I do hundreds of site audits a year based on statistical data. You can do it pretty fast if you base it on statistical data and accurate. If you want more information about that, if you want me to analyze your stats and see what's going wrong and very easily tell you what you need to do to rank on page one and then help you rank on page one, I'd help you to do so. That's what I do for a living, by the way. I'm fairly good at it for all those haters out there. It's no surprise if your competitors are defaming you, right? Because they realize that they're dumb and I'm not. So with that humble admission, please email me and I will help you do SEO for your site. You can email me at joshbachynski@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter at joshbachynski, and you can see more videos like this at youtube.com/jbachynski, JBCHYNS. Now, what else did he say? Yes, so around the 39-minute mark is when Joshua Berg, who also knows what's going on, he's been in the business for a long time, he directly asked, "Hey, John Mueller, hey, are you using feedback data?" John Mueller says, "What kind of feedback data do you mean?" I'm playing coy now. And then Joshua Berg says, Chrome, click or SERP click feedback data. And John Mueller's like, well, his face goes red. He's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And he looks around and he doesn't know what he's saying. And so, I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. Now, here's an interesting thing that kind of contradicts what I'm saying. So I'll give you this information as well so you can make a fully informed decision. He does still say that no indexing the bad content will work to defend against Panda. So this does not help us affirm or deny my theory. It can affirm either theory, right? The theory that it's on crawl on an ongoing basis, or the theory that it's processing clicks on an ongoing basis, or both, right? Because my theory is they have to crawl the page to know what elements are there to know whether a task has been completed or not. They can make a rough guess based on whether or not you bounce back to the SERP, but there's other tasks you can do, there's other actions you can do which doesn't help them explain that information. So to make that information less noisy, as they've called it, the bounce back to SERP less noisy, they're going to check to see where are you clicking, and they can determine the elements on a page, and they can guess on a ratio whether or not that task is completed. If you're clicking on some sidebar thing, task is not completed. They already know the difference between main content and sidebar. They've known that for years. If you're clicking on some shopping cart, okay, task might have been completed. If you're more likely chance. If you're clicking on this or that, if you're bookmarking it for later, maybe that was a completion. If it was a no query as opposed to a do query, those kinds of things. So that's why they need to crawl the page to see what you're clicking. However, that confirms my theory as well. If you no index the page, then you're going to a black hole. One, that you go to index page, you go SERP, search, SERP, index page, black hole. They can't index. They don't know what you did. They don't know if you completed the task. Doesn't help them. It's probably not going to hurt you either because John Mueller said no index your bad content. Or they're doing it on a one-to-one SERP to query to page ratio, where they're going not from the index page, they're processing it from your subpages. So let's say you have a subpage, buyredapples.html, where people want to buy red apples on joshsfruitemporium.com. So buy red apples, joshsfruitemporium.com, the buyredapples.html page comes up. They click that. Do they complete the task or not? They're at the bottom of the sales funnel, right? Google can tell they're at the bottom of the sales funnel based on the do query, the buy query they're looking for. So do they buy it or not? If they don't buy it, it's a bad page. Put up the ones that they do, right? Demote the ones that they don't, based on your quality, your task completion ratio. It could be a 1-to-1 ratio like that. That would be less noisy. That would be helpful to them. That would tell them right away whether you have a quality page or not. And they don't need to know what's on your page. That would be the smart way to do it. That could very well be the way they're doing it now based on all the evidence we have. However, the fact that he says no indexing your page could also affirm or cohere with the crawl theory, where they're crawling it, they're looking for an on-page factor, and like it could be this comment factor, which they could be also doing as well as what I said, or they could be doing or instead of what I said. So anyway, John Mueller just doesn't know anymore, because he did admit at one point that he just doesn't really know anymore. He's been on vacation. He basically, for example, later on, he did admit that he's guessing. He didn't know if they are looking at backlinks in Panda anymore. He was directly asked by Odysseus. I believe it was Odysseus, or could have been Joshua Berg. They're both hammering him on Panda questions, so I'm not really sure which one it is. He basically admitted he doesn't know anymore. They could be looking at backlinks in Panda. He used to admit categorically, emphatically, no, we do not look at backlinks in Panda because we don't want to have two algorithms looking at the same thing. Now he waffled on it, right? So Panda's changed. Either Panda's changed, he knows Panda's changed. So that means Panda's changed greatly. So much he's not sure if they're looking at links anymore. And it could be that they're looking at links to click-through paths, right? Or it could be they're looking at, he said, like spammy links. They could be looking at spammy links as part of the on-crawl or the click-through path of the task completion ratio. So it's fascinating what's going on now. But I think there's a lot of, in the same Hangout, he also admitted, you have to make sure you can allow us crawling your CSS or JS. He said, and I quote, you might want to double check if your CSS and JS is being crawled. He doesn't care if it's on your site or not. They have to crawl it. They have to render the page. It's so important to them, again, because of these quality issues, because of either this Panda algorithm or it could be some other, it could be some other quality algorithms. They admit they have many quality algorithms. So this is why I'm saying PageRank is mostly dead. They're ignoring most of those links. It's so unimportant to them, they don't bother running the Penguin algorithm for half a year to a year. And there's lots of other information that shows that links are not if you look at my past videos, any video, pretty much for the last year, or last six months anyway, this past year, 2015. There's many, links are still part of the algorithm, but they're not as important as you think, and social is a much more important thing. And I think QualityRank is their main algorithm now. They're dedicating so much processing power to it. It takes them months to process it, but I think they're accruing click data and processing that in the direct Panda algorithm, not just the bounce back to SERP rate, which I think they've been doing for well over a year now, but now they've got a much, because they admitted it was noisy, so now they got a much more cohesive data based on this Panda patent they did release in 2012, which talked about forming a quality score, what I'm calling QualityRank, and what I will call QualityRank from now on, which I'm harkening back to PageRank, which used to be the main algorithm. Now I think QualityRank is the main algorithm. Because really, that's all they need. They need to know how quality you are. They don't need anecdotal signals of quality like links. They need direct signals of quality. And so this is what they're going to be going for now. And trust me, they have access to all the data. So I think and it's based on a ratio of query to task completion, which you can have multiple factors in there, based on did they share it or did they not, or did they comment, did they not. They can have qualifiers in there based on this ratio. It doesn't have to be a simple ratio like that. But the simple ratio is good enough to tell whether it's quality. So, and anyway, this is what the patent was talking about. They've been granted it and it was released in 2012. And the guy, Panda, made it. And he's the guy who made the Panda algorithm. So, I think QualityRank is the main factor, and you ignore it at your own risk. I mean, I've been saying this for well over a year now, and I think they're just directly tracking it now, and I think this evidence proves it. If you can be hit at any time in that rollout, it's got to be on data they're accruing, and the data they're accruing is clicks. They already have a picture of your on-page factors. So, I mean, I think if you read between the lines there, it tells you that's how it works. It's QualityRank is the new algorithm that you have to watch out for. And if you ignore it, you're going to have serious ranking problems. So, luckily, I have a statistic-based model where I can look at your site and I can tell what's going on. It's not a from-the-hip guess of what I think looks spammy. It's based on my experience and what the stats are telling me. So I can tell you exactly what pages you need to change. You don't need to spend $50,000 or $10,000 updating your website or $10,000 on someone's SEO report where they manually look through the site. You can look on the data and you can get a much better sense and a much more accurate sense, and you can rank on page one much faster. So if you want to learn how to do that, if you want me to help you to do that, I would be happy to do so. You can, again, contact me at joshbachynski@gmail.com. You can follow me at Twitter for more information like this, and watch more videos like this where I have even more evidence and more information at youtube.com/jbachynski, J-B-A-C-H-Y-N-S. So until then, watch your quality on your site, watch your user metrics, watch what people are doing on your site, and you'll rank well in the SERPs. Good luck.